Hey everyone, it's Dark Energy with AoE Gaming, bringing you yet another non-meta build. This one, I took a bit of extra time testing and tweaking every little parameter to get it just right before release. But let me tell you, I am super excited to show you guys what this build can do and what I feel makes this build so special and so much fun. We'll go through a few quick visual presentations to show what this build looks like, and then we'll loop back around and discuss the build in further detail. But I'm telling you, this build has some exploits, pushing sets beyond their intended, I think, capability, resulting in a performance beyond their intended design. So stick around for a few clips, and then we'll loop back around and discuss the build. Alright guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those clips and that demonstration of what this build looks like, what this build can do. Now we can go ahead and dive a little deeper into how this build is put together. So let's jump in. We are a Dark Elf Dragon Knight. We'll go over some of those class and race passives later on in the video. We are a Vampire, keeping it at stage 3 for the extra Magicka and stamina recovery and the extra damage mitigation once you drop below 50%. Our boon that we use is the Atronach for extra Magicka recovery. You could switch that into the spell damage stone or even max Magicka. We'll talk about that later. But the food, Bewitched Sugar Skulls. It's a tri-stat with a health recovery, which goes a long way while you want to keep that vampirism at stage 3. But let's jump into the gear here and start talking about how this all works. Okay, so Red Mountain, the first 5-piece set and the foundation of this build, Inferno Staff with a sharpened trait. We'll talk about the 2, 3, and 4 trait later, but the 5th trait, when you deal damage with the weapon ability, 10% chance to deal over 11,000 flame damage. This could be every 2 seconds. This is one of those sets I feel we're able to push beyond its intended potential. If you take a look, it's 3 pieces of jewelry and 1 staff. We do not want this on our body as it's a medium armor set and we're a Magicka DK wearing light armor, but all of the traits have been transmuted from robust to infused. I also tried arcane and bloodthirsty, but infused was the way to go for me. The Inferno staff, if you look, I've got Nirnhoned, I've got infused. I was wielding a sharpened when I showed it. So now there's different reasons why I have different staffs with different traits and different glyphs, and we'll go over that in a minute. But the usage of those staffs, traits, and glyphs directly corresponds with some of the monster set options. The second weapon is the Maelstrom's Restoration Staff, sharpened with the Berserker glyph, helping us get through that proc, a bit more Magicka regen. We'll discuss that later. Monster sets. Valken's Scoria is my primary, but I'll show a few examples of the alternatives. They do work well. The second item is what we're going after here on this one. 8% chance with the damage over time to deliver an over 12,000 damage meteor. You could use Infernal Guardian. The first trait's max Magicka. Second trait, when you give yourself a damage shield, 50% chance to lob 3 mortars. Sounds great for this build. 7,300 damage a mortar. It's an AoE. We'll talk about why and how we use each one, and I'll demonstrate those options and how to optimize them. But let's move on to the next 5-piece set, New Moon Acolyte. You almost can't beat this set. It's like a double-edged sword. Spell damage, weapon damage, physical and spell penetration, and almost 500 weapon and spell damage on the 5th trait. It's just ridiculous. So we're wearing 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy to maximize our Undaunted passives, as well as kind of dip into each armor passive skill line. But I want to talk more about the Red Mountain set and really give a demonstration on how we do this and what makes this what I feel just absolutely ridiculous. So it requires a weapon ability to proc, and that's these here: One-Handed Shield, Destruction Staff, Restoration Staff. Being a stamina set, typically you do it with bow, 2-handed or dual wield, but on the Destruction Staff skill line with Crushing Shock, we've got 3 deliveries of damage, and it's a 10% chance proc rate on that Red Mountain set. So 3 at one time will give you a 30% chance with 1 cast. When you weave light attacks and Crushing Shock, bam, there it is. Every weave is a 40% chance. Now I'm going slow here just to show you. There I went again, Crushing Shock, 3 deliveries, there it went. Didn't get it here. Now if I have him loaded up with Destructive Reach as well, right there, it's going to be a damage over time. There's Valken's Scoria again. So when you have Destructive Reach on them, as well as weaving light attacks or medium attacks and Crushing Shock, I'll speed things up here a bit, the proc rate is just ridiculous. So keep your eye on the Volcano that's proccing here, as well as Valken's Scoria, but it's just almost non-stop. And it will directly hone in on the target. And if the target dies before its delivery or is too far away, Red Mountain will actually seek out another enemy within its range. I'm telling you, you look at this, it's just nuts. Especially in combination with Valken's Scoria or Infernal Guardian or even Alambris, the Meteorite Ultimate, and some skills you haven't even seen yet. But now let's talk about Infernal Guardian as an alternative option for a monster set, and a great way to exploit this set as well. So the proc conditions are, you have to apply a damage shield to yourself or an ally, and when you do, you have a 50% chance to lob the mortars, not a guaranteed chance. And when you lob the mortars, they deal great damage as an AoE, but to the furthest enemy from you, not the closest. But to make this proc rate automatic and just nuts, we put a damage shield glyph on our staff. And look, with one cast of Crushing Shock, you get that damage shield, 50% chance to proc Infernal Guardian, there it went. Light attack, Infernal Guardian, there it went. So as you're working through your rotation with Red Mountain, weaving light and heavy attacks with Crushing Shock, you're going to constantly send the mortars out from Red Mountain and the mortars out from Infernal Guardian. The issue I have with Infernal Guardian is that it attacks the furthest enemy. So I'm attacking this guy, and I want to put all my damage into him, and it lobs all the way over to that enemy over there. You wouldn't think it's a problem in a situation where you're maybe wanting to 1vx or even 1v1, but it can be problematic sometimes when you're wanting to focus all your damage to drop an enemy. It goes across the map. But in a 1v1, it's insane, as that's the only target to seek out. In PvE, it's great. And it's not bad in PvP, but that's why I use Valken Scoria. Let's talk about one more set here, Alambris. Now, I would typically never use this in PvP, as it's a stationary and very easy to see and avoid AoE. But you can use it as long as you utilize the Shock Glyph and definitely utilize immobilizations and constantly keeping that enemy CC'd. And I'll show you an example here where you really can use it. You just have to keep the enemy grounded. This was in the middle of a battle here. I locked this guy in place. There he is. Now he's getting Red Mountain. He's getting the lightning portion of it. Going on to fight this guy. He gets hit with the mortar. I lock him in place. Now he's getting the flame meteor portion of it. This guy disappeared, and it would have been maybe a 3. But anyhow, so you can use it. I still think probably Valken Scoria is better. But anyway, moving on to skills. Crushing Shock. We already talked about that. That gives us our 30% chance with each cast for Red Mountain. A definite mandatory skill to weave with light attacks. Light attack and Crushing Shock is 40% chance. Next skill, Coagulating Blood. It's our big burst heal. It's going to give us major fortitude as well, but we're also getting that from our tripods. Flame Reach. Now, you'll see the B button. I actually swap a couple different skills on sometimes, but using this as a weapon ability to cast on the enemy will also proc Red Mountain. So lighting them up with Flame Reach and then weaving light attacks and Crushing Shock really increases your proc rate of Red Mountain. Next skill, Dragon Fire Scale. I love this one. Reduces damage taken from projectiles by 50% per 6 seconds. Almost 7,000 flame mortar flies back at them, just increasing the number of fireballs and projectiles and mortars you're launching at the enemy. Next skill, Flames of Oblivion. Another fireball being launched, actually 2 of them, at the 2 closest enemies, dealing 7,000 damage every 5 seconds. It ends up being 4 of them. 0, 5, 10, and 15 second marks, and also passively increases your spell crit. So when you have 2 enemies, look here, it seeks out both. There it goes, delivering damage. The range is about as far as the left enemy is right now. But I like this skill, this as well as Red Mountain, as well as Valken Scoria, or Infernal Guardian like you see here, as well as Dragon Fire Scale. The projectiles are just constantly flying at the enemy. Next skill, Shooting Star. This is the perfect ultimate for this build. What better than a flame meteorite? Deals almost 16,000 damage initially upon impact, stuns for 2 seconds, and then deals almost 5,000 flame damage every second for 11 seconds. For each enemy you hit, you restore ultimate, so when you cast this into a crowd in PvP of 3, 4, 5 guys, that's great. When you're in PvE hitting trash, you end up generating half your ultimate back. So let's move on now, though, to the next skill on the Resto staff line, Burning Talons. This skill is insane. Almost 7,000 flame damage immediately in an AoE. Almost 7,000 flame damage over 4 seconds. It immobilizes the enemy and offers your allies a synergy for over 10,000 flame damage. I mean, you can't go without a skill like this, especially in PvP. Coupled with Flame Lash, when you lash an enemy, not only do you deal damage, but if they're immobilized, you'll set them off balance. If you lash them again while they're off balance, you'll do like a super lash, and you'll end up, I can't do it to him because he's a dummy who can't be immobilized, but you'll do a spin, and you'll deal increased damage at a reduced cost, and then you'll heal for over 14,000 health in 2 seconds. And I actually do that in some of the PvP clips. If you watch earlier, you can go back and look. And one of them you can actually see the healing following after I was getting bombarded by crystal frags. All right, next skill, Molten Armaments. It's going to give us Major, Brutality, and Sorcery, increasing our weapon and spell damage by 20% for 36 seconds, and increase the damage of our heavy attacks by 50%. You'll also give your allies Minor Brutality for 20 seconds when you cast that, helping your stamina builds with you. Next skill, Major Resolve and Major Ward from Hardened Armor. We picked this morph for the damage shield. That's going to help proc Infernal Guardian if you go that route. And even if you don't, it's good to have. Also, any attacker with a direct damage attack against you will be given magic damage in return. So now the ultimate on this bar, Ferocious Leap. Over 16,000 flame damage to all enemies in an AoE, knocks them down for 2 seconds, and then you gain a damage shield for 17,000 or more, which is great for the Infernal Guardian set. As you see here, it can proc that as well. Just an excellent, cheap ultimate option for a quick table turning type situation. Now, there's a skill I want to talk about and kind of take a special moment for it. Stone Giant. Now, this skill kind of came out with the Hero Storm update. This didn't exist like this for the Dragon Knight prior. It deals 6,500 physical damage around in an AoE, results in those balls you just saw orbiting around me, and then those balls can be casted in consecutive 1, 2, 3, and at the enemy like projectiles, increasing the damage with each ball, not just for the ball, but overall all of your damage output. And the third ball will stun them. So, you know, it's usable, it's not bad, being that this build we're using is Red Mountain and New Moon Acolyte. You do have a lot of weapon damage to justify using it, and you know, you get enough bang for your buck from it. But I'll be honest, other than being beautiful and almost visually perfect for this build, I don't feel like it does as well as Engulfing Flames or Destructive Reach. So you'll see in some clips I do have it though. But anyway, moving on to the champion points. We'll go ahead and start in the blue tree, the Apprentice. So looking at that, we got 15 points into Blessed, 4% healing done increase there. The rest of our points we're going to invest into Elemental Expert. We get 43 in there for a 10% increase to our elemental damage, and 51 points into Spell Erosion for 4,000 spell penetration. We're going to unlock the 10, 30, and 75 point unlocks. Spell Precision is going to be unlocked, increasing our crit by 9%, and Foresight isn't really all that great, but you got it. So next tree, the Mage, the Atronach, Staff Expert. Everything we're doing is light and heavy attacks, weaving with Crushing Shock and whatnot. So 35 points into that. It's going to increase our damage. And Master at Arms, all of our direct damage attacks. That's going to be Valken Scoria. That's going to be Red Mountain. That's going to be Crushing Shock. And we're going to unlock Butcher, which is imperative at 75 points to increase the light and heavy attack damage while enemies are at 25% health or less. All right, next tree, the Ritual. We pretty much want the 75 point unlock Exploiter, but to do that, we're going to invest our points into Thaumaturge. It's really the only applicable one, as the other three are more physical damage. So Exploiter increases the damage done against off-balance enemies by 10%. And with Burning Talons and the Flame Lash, we're going to knock them off balance all the time. So next tree and the Resistance, the Steed, Ironclad. You really want to get that up, as in PvP, most of the damage is direct damage. We've also got Resistant in for our crit resistance. We want to land at about 2,300, and we do. Spell Shield is our remaining, 1,900 there. So we're 120 points invested into this tree. But I would do it like this. If you want to tweak it a little bit, you can. But you want to get this Resilient passive. When you take crit damage, you heal for 193 health, and every little bit adds up. Now the next tree, the Lady. We are in light armor, so light armor focus it is. 52 points into that gives us 4,000 plus physical resistance. You don't want to go higher than that because you get diminishing returns. It's better for you to invest in the Thick-Skinned, Elemental Defender, and Hardy. You know, you get 3, 4, 5%ers from that. I did 6% on the Hardy because we have a lot more spell resistance as a Dragon Knight, so our physical is down a bit from our spell. But what you really want here is the Critical Leech. That is going to heal you when you deal direct critical damage, which you'll do a lot of with the Crushing Shock and Weaving Light attacks. The next tree, the Lord. This isn't really an imperative tree. You know, Expert Defender decreases your damage taken by light and heavy attacks. Quick recovery will increase your healing received. Bastion, that could be relevant if you're going to invest a lot into more damage shields. But anyway, let's move on to the green, the Thief Tower. So we're pretty much just going to invest points into Break Free. There's nothing really as far as unlocks we want there. The Lover, now this is our tree that's highly invested. Pretty much all of our recovery and resource return. We've got Arcanist for the Magicka recovery. You could take it to 14% if you want. I do have Healthy for the health recovery with the Bewitched Sugar Skulls, and keeping it at stage 3, you can get your health recovery up to almost 1,000. That's as a vampire, so that's great. The next tree, the Shadow. The only real thing you want here is roll dodge cost reduction. I went all the way up to 23%. You're not going to block a whole lot. I just put those points in there because you're not going to make it to the 24th percent. At least you'll find some good loot. Well, that wraps up the CP point distribution, and that actually wraps up the build video. I hope you guys like this build. Please feel free to give me any comments on what you think. Feel free to copy, paste, share. It'd be cool to see another couple of you guys out there rocking this build, the Hell's Mortars build. If you like this build and you want to see more, I do have more on my channel. I've got support roles, I've got Magicka, I've got stamina, I've got some hybrids, so check it out. Oh, and as a final word,